For all things outdoors, listen to the father of two, the Jesus-loving TV show hosting hairy, true-blood American redneck, Ben Cole.
And listen to the outdoor filming, chef cooking, chocolate milk drinking, John Weissmuller. And we are
Rooted Podcast.
On this episode of Rooted Podcast. No, for real though, we're talking about fishing, different types of fishing rods, fishing for different species, and we're going to share with you a little bit about time flies today. So, John, let's dive right in with this and start talking about fishing. So, out of all the fish species out there, saltwater included, what is your number one fish to go after and why?
Man, that's a heck of a question. Well, I'll put it to you this way. If we're talking freshwater, it's going to have to be bass, more specifically largemouth. Listen, even though I do love smallies, smallmouth are fun. And in the saltwater, I haven't done a ton of it. I've done a little bit of it. We mainly go after flounder whenever we do, so I really enjoy that. Striper's fun. I tell you, one day in life I will go on a mahi fishing trip. I can't wait for that day. But if I had to pick one that I do most often and that I enjoy a whole lot is bass fishing. And I would say why. Sorry to cut you off there. Just I just enjoy it. I really enjoy whenever they hit the bait. I've grown up doing it. I mean, it's just a lot of fun, man.
Oh man, I hear you. So to answer that same question for myself, I have to say probably saltwater is my number one, just because it is such a challenge and such a fight. Man, when you hook into a redfish that is 5-10 pounds, it's like fighting a 20-pound bass. It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
And when you get to bigger fish, those big snapper and different things that you're pulling from the depths. Man, I caught a red grouper one time, or one of those species of grouper, and dude, that thing went down in the reef and went back in the hole, and I just knew that the line was going to get cut on that reef, right? Because that's what you would expect from that. Dude, I was so tired at the end of that fight that I just handed the rod to my wife and was like, here you go. Enjoy. Have a great time. I'm just kind of, I'm done. Like, my forearms are completely shot. Like, there's no more fight left in me after fighting that fish, right. So I couldn't imagine, diving in and catching one of those sailfish or a marlin. I mean, or even one of those big bluefin tunas, man, that 500-pound fish to 1,000-pound fish. Like, bro, you have to be strapped into a chair. You have to be. There ain't no just hand fighting that. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm sure there's a bunch of dudes out there that are, seasoned to that and can handle that kind of stuff. But, man, I would want to make sure that reel was strapped to the chair so that way it didn't go, see you later. Because my luck, it would take off one good time and my hands would slip and it'd be like, see you later. A whole bunch of money for a rod and a reel combo. Yikes. That just hurt my feelings big time. Yeah. But, man, aside from the saltwater fishing, I absolutely love smallmouth and trout on the fly. I'm more of a fly fisherman. Once again, It's the challenge, man. I absolutely love a challenge that I can not only target the fish in a totally different manner, but I get in there with the fish. And one thing that I really like to do is tie my own flies, because there's some sort of gratification that comes from creating your own fly, going out and catching fish off of it. Man, it's just something super satisfying to be able to do that. And I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the conventional bait caster, spin reel, all that. I still will fish that way. But if I have to choose, and I have that stream or something close by that I can go hit frequently, I every time will choose the fly rod. Every time.
Well, and I mean, you are not the only one like that either. I mean, there are a ton of people who just like kind of the finesse game. It's not so much about, casting and reeling in real quick and, as a lot of people say, kind of burning up the water. Like a lot of these tournament dudes, bass fishermen tournament guys, who will just crank on that trolling motor and just go from structure to structure, bank to bank, dock to dock, just flipping, bang, bang, bang. Nothing's there. Next, next, next. It's more about like, hey, we're just gonna sit here. The view's nice. I like being in the water a little bit. Hang out and just finesse that fly, put it right where you want it, and then bang. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I totally get the allure. But for me, man, just getting on a boat and just jigging or whatever, throwing out a worm, throwing out crankbaits, spinner baits, whatever it is. I tell you what else I love, dude, is top water. Oh my gosh, top water is so fun, man. Like, especially either, first light or a last light. That's generally when top water works the best overall. There's obviously cases where it works in different situations, but anyway, for the majority of your fishing, first light and last light. And my personal favorite topwater lure ever is a thing called a whopper plopper. Dude, all it is it's so fun, man. It almost looks like a crankbait, kind of has that build to it. And then it's got two treble hooks, and on the back, it's got this set of propellers that spins whenever you reel it, and it literally makes a plopping sound in the water. It just goes bloop, 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 as you reel. So that fish gets kind of annoyed, and it looks like a minnow or a little bass, or they got a bunch of different colors and stuff. It can look like a shad or whatever, and it's making all this racket, and they just don't like it. And buddy, they just come up and absolutely tear it apart. And when they do, they put on a show, man. It is, to me, top water bass fishing is like, it's kind of like whenever a turkey struts and they're putting on a show. Same kind of deal. When a bass comes out of that water and just blam. Oh, dude, it's freaking awesome. I love every second of it.
Oh man, that actually is a lot of fun, and I'm not opposed to getting on a boat. I love being on the boat, being in the water. Absolutely love it. But I also love going waist deep in a creek, waiting for those fish too, man. I absolutely love it. Because, man, I grew up on Lake Guntersville. My whole life has been spent running up and down Lake Guntersville. Do I know some good spots to fish? Maybe. Depends on the time of the year. It depends on what they're doing at that time of the year. Am I a professional fisherman? Absolutely not. I just like to go out there and jump off the boat and float.
That's right.
I used to duck hunt out there a lot, man, but then it just got to the point to where it just wasn't worth it anymore, man. But the fishing out there is pretty dang good. But since I've moved to Tennessee, man, I am sold out on these small rivers and streams, catching smallies, catching trout, whatever it may be. That is what I absolutely love to do. And and two, the other thing for me is I like to fight on a fly rod, because you know how those fly rods are, man. You catch a 1/8 of an ounce bass and it's going to bend the tip of it. And you catch a 2.5 pound smallie and it's like, yeah, we got a fight now. I mean, a sure enough fight, because not only are you fighting the fish, but you're fighting the current too. And man, there's just something super, super cool about that I absolutely love, man. And I wanted to ask you, you were talking about jigging, right? So what are you jigging? Like, what is the concept of jigging? Are you jigging on a surface? Are you jigging in grass? Is there some kind of structure down there that you're trying to pull a bass out of? what does the
Mm-hmm.
term jigging actually mean?
So for me, it's you buy a jig, right? Now you can get there's a whole world there. I like football jigs, and the reason it's called a football is the weight at the top. So a jig usually has a weight, a hook that comes off of it, and then some sort of skirt, whether it's fur, whether it's something kind of like a spinnerbait skirt, just some colorful, colorful plastic material, kind of rubbery stuff. Um, so for me, it's the football head, and then I like black and blue. I've had most success with that around my waters. Chartreuse and white, any of that kind of stuff always works. Um, and then you have a trailer that comes off of it. There's a million different kinds of trailers. I like one that's called a split tail. And whenever it falls, the tails literally kind of look like something's swimming. So anyway, you get all that rigged up, and a lot of times what I look for, okay, is structure. Uh, Whether that's a dock. There was one time I was with a buddy of mine. We were out at one of these local lakes, and I was fishing a dock. And dude, I'm in the boat. The dock's like 4 feet away from me. I mean, I'm kind of right up on it, and you know, you really don't have to be super far away like a lot of people think, especially if you're jigging because you're deeper. Now, I wouldn't fish 4 feet away from a dock if I was topwater fishing. That's a little different. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm just jigging right by this dock, and boom, I get a hit and I catch this 4 pounder. It's freaking awesome. So then another thing I look for, and something that happened on this same exact fishing trip, I look for a point. So whether that's this piece of land that kind of comes together, right, and then you can see it out in the water. If you don't need this, but if you do have some sort of fish finder, some sort of something on your boat, just putts out there, and don't go super fast. Just take it easy and read the depths. And so for instance, this point, like any other point, when any other shoreline, right, it starts at inches, and obviously the further you go out, the deeper the water gets. That's pretty common sense. Well, eventually it's going to drop. It's going to have some distinct drop. So on this particular day, the water we wanted to be in was 18 feet. I wanted to be in 18 foot of water. Okay. And I was casting across this point, and I was jigging, and I was probably fishing about 12 to 14 feet of water. Okay. And I'm just jigging across this point. And just like if you're deer hunting or turkey hunting, where a point comes out, maybe into an opening, or 2 points meet, you've heard of the term pitch point or saddle in deer hunting. Same kind of idea. So I know fish like to live, or at least be, at points. So I look at stuff like that, and on this particular one, on a football jig, black and blue, about 2 hours after I caught that 4 pounder, I caught the biggest bass of my life, and it was a 10 pound largemouth, the only double digit bass I've ever caught. So that's kind of what I look for as far as whenever I say jigging. That's what jigging is to me. And all I'm doing is I'm casting it out and I'm letting it drop. And when it hits bottom, you literally bring it up, reel, and let it back down. And you just keep doing that process. Okay. And all it's doing, it's coming up, and then the little trailer is swimming down, and then the skirt moves, and they just like it. To me, the brighter the blue, the better. Fish, I've seen fish tend to hit brighter lures. Um, and when I say that, I don't mean like neon yellow. Like, even if it's white, if it's bright, they tend to hit it more. So, I just try to make sure you don't get some dull blue color. Make sure it's just a good, just on the brighter side. And then one more kind of tip is you need to look at your rod and reel combo. So, for instance, if you're in there and you're jigging on an ultralight, that's made for, sunnies, you probably ain't gonna do so hot because it's not because the rod and the reel's bad. It's because it's not made for the bait, so it doesn't make the bait look good in the water. So you want to get a reel that's got for jigging anyway. You want to get one that's got a low ratio, like a 4-7-1. And what that means is every time, okay, that you turn that reel, okay, that's how many times the spool will actually turn. Okay. So for those of you that don't know, the spool, whether it's a bait caster or a spinner reel, the little tiny thing that spins is called a spool. So if you get one that's a 4-7-1, for example, every time you spin that reel around, the spool has spun 4.7 times per one reel. Okay. So if I was fishing topwater, I want a higher ratio reel, like a 7-1, a 6-4, something like that. That way, when a fish hits it and you got to reel really fast to get up all that slack because it's topwater, right? So whenever it hits it, some line's gonna come loose. I want one that every time I reel, the spool's moving faster than like a 4-7. But if I'm jigging, I want that bait to move a little slower, so I get a slower ratio reel. And my rod, I like a 6-6 medium heavy spinning reel or bait caster. If it's a bait caster, I may go a little taller, maybe 7 foot. But I like medium to medium heavy when I'm jigging. Anyway, I know that was a big rant to your answer, but that's what I like.
No, man, that actually answered it very well because I have no earthly idea. I am I think the brand name of it is Booyah. I like them Booyah buzz baits, and I like
Hey, yeah, they're good, dude.
the culprit worms. Yeah, man, I'm a worm
Yep.
guy, old
Yep.
Texas rigger. I like to.
Hey, me too.
Hey, I've caught more fish, and you can ask any of my buddies. They'll sit there and they'll do all these fancy poppings, and I'm just reeling. I just slowly reel, and I guess it's
Yep.
that tail movement, man. I mean, that's not on the lake or nothing. That's just on ponds and stuff. And man, I've caught more
Oh, man.
bass by just slowly reeling, real slow, just a good, slow, steady pace. And boom, rod bent over. And my goal every time is to set that hook very, very well. And sometimes after I
Oh, yeah.
come back from like a saltwater trip, I get a little excited because you know how much force you put on them rods and just to set the hook in something like that. So
Yeah.
I've pulled the bait smooth out before because I yanked it too hard. But man, talking about the fly fishing stuff and what you're talking about with the structure and all of that for the bass and jigging, one thing that I've really noticed in fishing these smaller streams and smaller rivers and stuff that you can actually wade. For example, actually, you know what? I'm not going to tell you the river I fish on. I'm just going to, you know where I fish, John, but we're going to just leave that to us.
Oh, yeah.
That's not a good idea to say that, but what I've
No.
noticed is where you get that current coming through a nice set of boulders or rocks or whatever, and you got that real hard ripple. If you will take and cast above that, so you're casting upstream, and you want that fly to float down through those ripples, and that is how you're catching those fish because they're sitting there waiting. That's why they're in the current, is because they're waiting on food to come past them. But you can't throw right at them. You have to go and cast upriver and let it float
Above them.
across
Yeah.
above them and let it flow right over them. And ideally, you want to be able to make that cast to where it's just your leader and tippet that lands in what I call the strike zone, if you will. Probably not correct terminology, but you don't want your floating line to land in there, if you can at all avoid it, which I'm not the best caster in the world. I just go out there and have a good time. which is what we should do anyways, is just go out and have a good time in God's creation. But, you know, all the success that I've had on trout, smallmouth, the red eye bass, the rock bass, all that stuff in these streams has been, man, letting it just ease by. And I'll tell you, I've caught more. Actually, it's kind of a toss up for the smallmouth. I've caught them in the slower moving currents. I'll find some big rocks along the bank and I'll cast upriver from them. And that slow
They
drag
love rocks.
across, man, I have caught so many fish right there, right before it hits the rapids. And then I've caught them in the rapids.
Yeah.
And then I've caught them shortly after in those little eddies or whatever they're called, where it just kind of spins. Man, I've caught so many in all three different places. But you know, we're talking about what they like to eat too, right? So in Tennessee, we've had a massive cicada hatch. So I've been the last couple days trying to learn how to tie some cicada flies so I can get out and try to catch some smallmouth and some trout on these flies and you know, really jump into this hatch and really try to, you know, get that. And a side note, cicadas are really good for turkeys too. They love them. They will destroy them. And while we're on the subject of that, I want to throw this Bible verse in there, man. It hit me just a minute ago. It's Matthew 6:25 through 27. It says, "This is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food and your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life?" Dude, look at it like this. So when I saw this cicada hatch happening, man, and we were just sitting here talking about it, this scripture came to my mind because I was sitting there thinking, I mean, there is enough cicadas that have come out to feed all the turkeys, all the fish. And, you know, most of the time when you see mass kill-offs, it's because of something we've done. You know, it's not like, oh, well, you know, the river over there, all the fish are dead now. You know, it just went bad for no reason. No, it's because something that humans did. So if we could, and I'm talking to myself when I say this, if I could stop worrying about everyday life and like food and clothes and all this stuff, man, how much closer could we be to God if we just focused on Him and relied on Him to take care of everything like He does for everything else? I mean, look at all the wild food for the deer and everything. Man, it's so complex, and it's so awesome to see this stuff actually play out what the Bible's saying in everyday life. You just have to stop long enough to look at it, you know? So I had to say that, man. It's been on my heart, and it just came to my mind, and I had to dump that on you right there. You know, you got to share the gospel when we can, right? So, but this cicada hatch, bro, these fish are tearing it up, and it's not like your normal topwater. So from what I've gathered, the information that I've read about it is these cicadas get more and more active the hotter it becomes. So it's not a first in the morning last light. It's the hottest point of the day. They're flying around and falling into the water. And that's when these fish are feeding on them, is when they are dropping into the water. So it's a little bit different based on, you know, what bait you're using, obviously, right? So typically when I go fish for smallmouth, I go out at daylight or, you know, first of the afternoon or late in the evening, like what you're talking about. But now that I know that these cicadas are here, I'm going to go about 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock and fish from 1 to 4, 5, something like that, and then call it good. Because that is when those actual insects are the most active and the more likely to fall into the water is when it's the hottest. That's when they're out doing their thing, flying and all that stuff. And you can hear it too if you notice when you're driving down the road. man, I can hear it over my diesel engine, plain as day. It's just loud, and even those
Mm-hmm.
wild roaring tires of mine, I can still hear them when I go past them at certain points of the day. In the mornings, not so much. I was out maybe a couple hours ago, and they were on fire. I mean, oh my Lanta, man, they were just going to town, and it was the hottest part of the day. So I thought, I guess all the stuff that I've read is actually somewhat true anyway. I mean, I've never fished
Yeah.
with a cicada fly before, but by golly, I'm going to give it a try. That's for certain.
Yeah, I mean, it can't hurt nothing. And this goes back to the old fishing kind of tale to say is dude, match the hatch. That like
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you use, man. Whatever's hatching, aka whatever the fish are eating at that moment, dude, grab a lure that looks like that. If it's cicadas, cool. Whatever. I mean, dude, bass eat anything, man.
Yeah.
An adult largemouth bass, if it fits in its mouth, odds are it'll eat it. Obviously,
Sure.
that they love worms and insects and crayfish, and they have their things that they like, frogs, but dude, if it fits, they will eat it 99% of the time.
Man, I've seen stuff where bass will eat like little ducklings and stuff.
Oh yeah, I
I
have a
mean,
duck lure, a couple of them.
oh, nice. Excellent.
Yeah,
That's
it
awesome, dude.
works.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, man. I just think that that's so accurate in what you're saying about they'll just kind of eat whatever because if it fits, it ships pretty much. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's the bass
Yep.
mentality is if it fits, we're going with it.
They're like, I'm
Which is
hungry
great.
and I can eat it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. But
Yeah,
the crazy thing
Hey,
is
listen, I
that
think me,
it's
you,
so
and a
diverse
largemouth
between
bass got
different
got the
fish
same diet.
species as far as what
If
their
I,
diets are.
if it'll fit in my mouth, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
there
so
you are.
there we are.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good, man. It's just kind of crazy how diverse all the fish species actually are when it comes to what they eat, but at the same time, they also eat a
Yeah,
lot of the
they
same
all are
stuff.
just different.
But they still, it's kind of crazy how they do that, but then they all eat a
Yeah.
lot of the same things too. It's just cool, man. I just think that correlation is
Mm-hmm.
pretty neat to sit back and look, because you can catch a bass on the same thing you can catch a crappie on, and the same with the brim, the same with the trout,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Let me tell you something. A night crawler will
Catfish.
catch all of them. A night crawler will work.
Yeah.
I mean, just saying,
Yeah,
you
dude.
know, but you're not going to
Yeah.
catch a trout on a football jig. You're just not going to.
No. No.
Totally different. See, that's what I'm
No.
saying with the differences.
Yeah, it's
And
a whole. Yeah, exactly. It's a good point.
it's just a cool thing to look at, and it's like trout have to have super cold water to live. A bass, oh, they're good, man. They don't just die off because the water gets above, I think it's 65, 70 degrees. If it gets warmer than that, trout are dead, gone. You want to be around
See
the
you later.
50 degrees and cooler for the trout. So anyway, back to what you were saying. I did not mean to cut you off there. We froze there for a minute, so I just kept talking
Yeah,
because I
it's all
didn't
good.
know you were talking.
All good. No, I was just saying, it's like, I mean, bass will eat anything. Kind of like me and you. If I can fit it in there, I'll probably eat it at least once. You know, but I
Yeah.
mean, bass in general, dude, are just are just so fun. And I kind of want to go back to what you were saying about worms. Dude, I'm talking about football jigs and top water baits and all this stuff. Dude, 90% of the bass I catch is on a Strike King, what's called shimmy stick. That's just like the name of the thing. It's just a worm that looks. It's got the color of shad on it. I think it's called baby shad or something. Anyway, and Ben knows this. Every time we go to Walmart, any Walmart or any sort of store, I look for these lures because they don't really make them anymore. You can buy them online here and there, but as far as just buying them at a store, it doesn't really happen. So every time I see them, I gotta buy them. And Dude, I was just in Georgia this past week. I wasn't too far from where you shot all your deer, the hog, and the ducks a couple years ago. I wasn't. I was about an hour outside of Ocilla, Georgia. There,
Ooh.
I was in Valdosta, Georgia, and really I was about 20 minutes outside of that city. I was darn near in Florida. I was probably like less than a mile from Florida. Anyway, so I went fishing there and with my brother, and we're sitting there fishing, and dude, nothing was really happening. And then I put on the OG of all lures. If y'all get anything out of this, buy a pack of Zoom. The brand is called Zoom Black Lizard. They're like 6 inches long. It's called Black Lizard from Zoom. That thing right there, dude. I don't care what state you're in. I don't care what body of water you're in. I don't care how the watercolor is, what time of the year it is. I don't care. You throw a black lizard on your hook and toss it out there, you will catch a fish. I caught a 4.5 pounder with it, and my brother caught a couple fish off of it. I caught another fish. Most of those were like 1.5 to 2.5. Just awesome, solid, healthy fish. And I'm telling you, man, something about lizards. Whenever I guess it's because lizards kind of seem like predators. And whenever a bass sees a lizard, he just can't help himself. He's got to hit it. He's got no choice. It's just in his DNA. See lizard, kill lizard. And it works out great for you. And all I ever do with that, man, I just get a standard rod and reel. Like I got like a 6.5 or 6.6 something, medium heavy, ugly stick. Just a middle of the road rod, right? And I've got a $10-12 Shimano spinning reel. Nothing fancy. Couldn't even tell you the ratio on it. I don't even know. Probably somewhere in the middle. Probably a 5 something. And I put on a 3 or 4 what's called a worm hook. I don't like the circle ones. It's kind of like an offset. It kind of comes down over, and then the hook, dude. I I put that lizard on and I make it weedless. So what I do is I go through the head of the bait, come out the other side, twist the hook, push the bait above the little like L-shaped start of the hook, and then I put the hook like halfway in the lizard towards the bottom. And now the hook, the actual barb, is submerged in the bait, and then now it's weedless. And that's what I use. That's how I tie up pretty much all my Texas rigging. And um, if I need to get in some deeper water, I'll put a weight, to make it a true Texas rig. But if I'm just pond fishing like I was here and like I do most of the time, I don't even use a weight. Just black lizard or the worm. And dude, I've caught thousands of fish on just a black lizard or that Strike King worm I'm talking about. I love it, man. And it works, dude. It just works. It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, man, that sounds outstanding and a lot of information that I did not know. So, you were talking about different rods and different things like that for the bass fishing and using different baits and all that. Well, in the fly rod world, you go by weights, like rod weight. So it's a 3 weight, a 4 weight, 5 weight, all the way up to 10 and 12 weight for your saltwater stuff. So your 12 weight is going to be your saltwater offshore stuff. It's heavy. I mean, I would say with a 12 weight, you can catch a 125-pound tarpon, or bigger. Your 5 and 6 weight are more your bass and trout and stuff like that, depending on the size of fish that you're targeting, right? I mean, if you're going after, less than a pound trout, you don't necessarily need a 5 weight. But man, that's how you kind of determine what rod that you need is based on what fish you're targeting. So, you don't want to go after a bass like a largemouth with a 3 weight or a whatever. You want to have at least something that's got enough backbone to handle that. And these carp really love these cicadas. So that's one thing too. You hook into a 25-pound carp on even a 5-weight, man, it's probably going to handle it, but there is a good chance that you're going to break your rod. So I would suggest going with like a 6-weight or something like that. And once you change weights, you got to look at the line, the tippet, the leader, the backing. All that stuff is totally different for each weight of rod that you're going with, because not only are the fish bigger, but the actual bait that you're throwing, the fly, weighs more. So let's say you're casting a saltwater fly. Well, it weighs a whole lot more than a bass fly or even a small trout fly. Like if you're using a small nymph, man, those things are little bitty. And it's totally different between the two on what you're throwing and even how you cast. So the saltwater is more of a push-pull method. So you pull the line out when you come back and you push it through the eyelets when you go forward. The regular is just, you're trying to finesse it and just get the line out. You're not really doing the same motions. It's totally different. Two totally different styles of casting based on what you're targeting, which is, man, it's been tough to learn the saltwater casting game. I have not been a very quick learner when it comes to that, but I'll tell you one thing, fishing in saltwater for reds and stuff, man, I have caught a bunch of stuff off of the crab flies and the shrimp flies. And dude, the clouser minnows, man, they work great. If you just make a clouser look like a shrimp pattern, oh man, it's over, dude. Game, set, match. Over.
Sounds like a good time.
But, I just wanted to kind of dive into that. Yeah, man. So, and there's a lot of different variations that go into the fly rods, like the taper, how it's crafted, all that stuff. There's a whole bunch that goes into that particular thing, and I'm not going to dive into that today, but I just kind of wanted to touch on the basics of this is the weight, this is what you're looking at, just kind of showing the difference of the different rod styles and types based on the weight and what you're fishing for.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes total sense. I mean, it's kind of the same game as bass fishing, just a little different verbiage and things, but same foundation. I mean, especially saltwater. I know we touched on this in the beginning, but those fish have to fight tides, and they usually also have way bigger fish trying to eat them, like all day. So they're a little stronger, a lot stronger. Now, dude, this one time I was out in the bay right off the coast of Atlantic City, and I caught this. I was like 11 or 12 or something, and I caught this little like 8-inch or 6-inch whatever black bass. Dude, little old me, man, I thought I had a giant on. I mean, dude, I hooked that thing, and I was like, Dad, get the net. This thing's a giant. And my dad grew up fishing this. He's like, oh, yeah, okay. And it comes up a little 6-inch black bass. He's like, and I was like, oh, my God, what the heck is this thing? He's like, they fight a little different than back home, because, it felt like a 10-pound largemouth bass, and it was a little thing. So when I did catch like a 27-inch flounder, and I caught a 20-something inch 8-pound striper bass out of the ocean, dude, you talk about just killer, man. I was like, oh my gosh, look at this thing. And I mean, dude, there's nothing like it, man. Salt water is in a league of its own. It's totally different. And it's just awesome, and I love every bit of it. I actually caught my first fish from the beach last summer. I caught a striper right off the coast of I was in Brigantine, New Jersey, and anyway, so I caught a striper there, and I caught a little tiny shark, dude, like a little sand shark. It was like this big, little tiny thing. After I caught that, yeah, dude, it was awesome. After I caught that, Maggie never went back into the water. She's like, nope, not doing that. I was like, this little shark ain't gonna get you. You'll be all right. So
Oh,
anyway,
that's funny. That is hilarious. Yeah, man. Well, you have anything else you want to throw in there for today?
man, just the normal stuff, you know. Check out our website. On the website, we got a merch store. All you do is go on rootedtelevision.com, hit shop or hit store, whatever it says. You'll figure it out. Go on there, buy all of our sweet stuff. Check us out on all of our social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all the fun places to be. And you know, we're obviously anywhere that you can listen to a podcast, we are there. So however you're listening, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or listening. And that's all I've got, man. Just check us out.
And don't forget, if you want to support us in other ways than just buying apparel, you can hit the link in the description and it takes you through all the steps and you can help keep this thing going. Thank you, guys. Redneck
See y'all.
out. For all things Rooted Podcast and Rooted Television, and I mean hats, shirts, hoodies, and other merch, check out our friends at CH Lone Star Pro and the link that is in our description.